Hey folks, it's Amy from Colorado Mountain Living, and welcome to September and the Rocky Mountains. Do not adjust your sets. You are seeing white, okay? Surrounded by snow this morning after a full day-long storm in the mountains of Colorado. So yeah, let me tell you all about it in this video. It was just very unusual to see a storm like this right after Labor Day. Okay, folks, so outside this morning, this is the morning of the storm. It seems to be really fine snow. It's almost like it wants to be freezing rain. In fact, I think it changed over from rain into freezing rain at some point because there's a lot of frozen drops, like raindrops. And everything has like a little thin coating of ice on it. So that's happening. But right now the snow is just really fine. So I don't know. I don't really expect a lot of accumulation with that. Probably just like a nice crust. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it. But let's go look down at the garden and see what the situation is. Brian put a thermometer, a meat thermometer in there to kind of like gets the ambient temperature underneath those wraps. So let's go see if it's holding its temperature. Well, I can see the lights on there, so I know they held up. They didn't go out overnight. That's a relief. We weren't really sure if those bulbs were going to hold. So there's some pockets of precipitation accumulating. I'm going to clear those off so they don't sink and sink in. But so far the wind has not started, so we're doing pretty good. The ratchet straps were an extra layer of protection. So down here is where the box is. This is what he put the thermometer in. It's holding at about 45 degrees. So that's pretty awesome. Last night when we went to bed, it was 45 out, and he said that the garden beds are about 61 degrees. That's probably what temperature it was when we put the cover on and then put the lamp on. So I'm glad to see that, after the overnight and all the freezing that's happened, that it seems to be holding around 45. So that's pretty cool. So we'll keep an eye on that. And it's very still right now. There's no wind, so we'll just, keep you posted and see what the rest of the day brings. We know that one dog does not get deterred by snow or cold weather, but he still needs to go for their morning walk. So we're out here. Can you get it? Get it. Get the bigger stick. Can't see nothing out there. Barely see those trees. Now is when we're going to get the inches. It's going to add up fast tonight. If it's going to snow heavy like this all night, we might get those 15. So it's been snowing all day, and we probably got a good 5 inches, but it's coming down a lot harder now than it was earlier this morning. This morning it was just like, oh, someone's really excited about the snow. Oh man, someone's excited. So what I wanted to do was check on the garden and check on, one, that the lights are still going. So yes, they are, I can see them, but I think I need to clear off some snow, okay? Before the overnight happens. This one's got a nice peak, but it's definitely piling up right there. So the lights are not burned out. That seems to be working, but I gotta check on the temperature, see what it's holding, because right now it's 21 degrees, and it's gonna get colder tonight, obviously. And I wanna see what the garden's been able to maintain. We're looking at 43. Okay, so that's not bad. 43. All right. Holding at 43. So that's really encouraging. Now I'm going to clear this off. So some folks might be thinking, why don't you leave the snow on there? Because it's more insulating. And that's true, but I just don't want it to collapse the tenting. So that's why I'm clearing it off. We'll get plenty more snow buildup overnight, so that can help insulate. I just don't want to add it to, I just want to clear off what I can to really reduce the chance of it collapsing in on it. Okay, well, hope that does the trick. We'll see by tomorrow how many inches we have, because it's snow. The storm's supposed to go overnight all the way to noon tomorrow. So, going to keep an eye on things. Going to go bundle up inside, have something nice and hot to eat. My hands are freezing. All right, guys. So it is getting dark. It's about a little after 8 o'clock. You can see that the lights are still going on the garden. The snow is kind of lightened up a little bit. And let's hope those lights stay on all night, because I love to have some lettuce next week when it's 70 degrees. Guys, we made it through the storm, and oh my gosh, let me tell you a little bit. If you're not familiar with our channel, we are up at 9,300 feet in the Rocky Mountains. We're an hour west of Denver, up in Gilpin County, and we started our homestead here about 3 years ago. We're building our home ourselves and working on more sustainable living. So trying to figure out how to garden at high altitude, keeping bees, dealing with the wildlife. So definitely, if you haven't been familiar with our channel before, subscribe and kind of follow along with our story, just as we kind of figure things out for ourselves. We're not experts of mountaineering or mountain living, but we're learning along and letting other folks know what it's like to move to the mountains and start over with a new climate like this, right? September in Colorado, very unusual. Actually, I think the record for snow, the earliest record for a big snowfall in the Denver area, at least, is September 3rd. So we're very close to the record setting. I guess that was about 50 years ago. But for us, the biggest concerns we have about the storm, it's not necessarily getting snow. We like snow and it's really fun, but we had certain things that were not really ready for freezing temperatures yet. And one was a garden. And behind me, we're going to go take a look at that. Go take a look at the garden to see, in our last video, and I'll put a link to it if you haven't seen it, how we secured the garden from freezing temperatures. It was a sudden temperature drop overnight. We had barely come back from vacation, and we had to completely cover the garden and secure it from freezing. So definitely check out that video if you haven't seen that. So let's go. We're gonna go look over at the garden and see if we've been able to maintain a temperature above freezing. So the first good news you can see is that the lights are still going. What we did was we put halogen lamps inside of these walled off raised garden beds. So we used walls from a pop-up tent that are sort of like that Tyvek material, like the house wrap. And we wrapped them all up and cinched them up with some straps there because we were expecting high winds. And so we just kind of wrapped everything up and put those halogen lamps in there to kind of see if we could keep the temperature above freezing. So let's go see what the temperature actually is. All right, looks like 41 degrees, and that is amazing. That's definitely going to preserve our lettuce. So very happy to see that. So that is amazing. I feel like that was a success to be able to keep the garden from freezing, because tomorrow the temperature is supposed to go back up into the 40s, and by the weekend up into the 50s, and next weekend up into the upper 60s. So we still hopefully have a lot of growing time left in this season, unless we get another quick freeze like this. But now we actually have a plan to sort of secure everything to keep from freezing. So we were able to save the garden, but sadly, I'm afraid we weren't able to save the aspen trees. So my biggest fear about the storm, and I kept saying it while we were on vacation because we were in Wyoming, and I was noticing that the aspens were starting to turn yellow, is that actually I'm afraid that the aspens are not going to turn yellow this year. I'm afraid that the leaves are all frozen and they're just going to go straight to brown. So kind of a silly reason to be upset about a snowstorm when there's a lot of more serious things that could happen, but it's one of the prettiest times of year to see those aspens turn yellow, and I'm just kind of sad that that's probably not going to happen this year. I might be wrong. Maybe this has happened before, and the trees are they're going to come back, and then they'll turn those bright yellow colors, but I have a feeling that this year it might not happen that way. So looking at the weather forecast, it said that it still might snow a little bit more this morning up until noon, but I actually think we're done with the storm. I think it's sort of kind of skirted by our area, and we aren't going to get any more snow totals. And I want to say probably the biggest thing that I'm grateful for about the storm is that we never got those high winds, because that could have made everything worse. We could have lost power. We could have had trees down. We could have had a lot more destruction had we had the combination of the snow and the high winds, because we even had a little bit of freezing rain mixed in there, like you saw on the tractor wheel. It was kind of like, it went from rain to freezing rain into snow. But we still have a lot more work to do before winter comes. So got to finish up the driveway, and there's a couple more things on the house we want to finish. We've got to take care of our storage situation. So remember, if you've been following our channel, we've lost our shed last year in a windstorm. We used to have a big canvas shed, and we lost the canvas off of it last year. And a lot of our belongings and storage have been out in the elements, completely exposed for almost a year now. We moved a lot of it into the basement, but a lot of things had to stay out here because we didn't have room. Because we do have plans to build another storage option. We want to build like a workshop / storage barn in the woods, which we got started on earlier this year, except other projects have kind of kept us from working on that, and we're running out of time, right? So maybe we'll be able to get the footings put in, but we're not going to be able to get the structure built probably before the next snow comes. So we need a storage solution. And so looking into storage containers. I almost forgot we have one more project that has to get done before winter, and that is something we did not get to last year. So can you see behind me the big chimney up there? There's a big old chimney from when we were living in the basement, and we had a wood stove. But since then, since those days are gone, we have since transitioned into a gas stove for our heat system and our radiant heat in the basement. And this chimney is actually non-functional right now. It's just a structure that's up there that needs to come down. And we weren't able to finish this small section of siding on the house because of the location of that chimney and the things that have to get out of the way. So we're going to be renting a lift next weekend, and we're going to be taking that down. So that's another big project that has to happen, because we want to make sure we got to get that siding done. We can't just leave that exposed. We already left it open for a year, which is not good. So we've got that to take care of. So this winter storm was a good thing, because it's just reminding us of the things that we need to wrap up before winter really settles in for good. Because last year it snowed from October to April and did not let up, and we had no options to really work on the house or big projects outside. 3 years ago, it was mild, and we were able to pour our foundation. So you don't know for sure what you're going to get, but we got to be prepared for a winter like last year, where we got 3 to 4 feet of snow pack in the woods, and we need to be ready for that. So you can see on the ground here how the heat has really kept the snow from accumulating. We definitely got inches and inches of snow, but it's kind of sunk into the ground. And where the dirt was exposed, and it was 80 degrees the day before, you can imagine the heat that was retained in this section of the drive. And there's just a small crust that's on the drive. Here we are at the driveway. And if you've caught our GeoCell driveway video, you know that we're kind of trying to evaluate how well our driveway holds up in wet conditions. So here's some tire tracks right here. You can see there's definitely some compression going on. So it'll be interesting to see how, as the snow melts, how the driveway holds up. How soft is it going to become? How much the gravel stays in place. So that'll be something really interesting to monitor and evaluate over the weekend as the snow sort of melts away. Sort of mimicking like the springtime, right? Anyway, so we'll keep you posted on that. And as I'm walking on it, I can definitely feel some spots that are really soft. So I can feel, kind of like my boots are sort of, right here. You can see it's kind of sinking, half an inch right there. So I think there's definitely opportunities for more compression on the driveway. I think that would be, a way to kind of pack it down a little bit more would be optimal. So like you can see behind me, we've got the beehives all wrapped up in blankets here. That was to really protect them from the sudden temperature drop as well as the winds. The winds can be the things that really affect beehives in the cold. So we wanted to really make sure things were insulated. And I don't really have a way to ensure that they're doing okay at this point. The best thing to do is to kind of knock on the hive and listen for humming on the inside, and that can tell you if the bees are still in there and doing okay. I'm going to have to check a little bit later when I can take those blankets off, but I'm not going to do it right now because we got one more really cold night coming, and I want to make sure they stay wrapped up. Tomorrow's going to be cold as well. It's not going to be warm enough to fly, so I actually might leave the blankets on there for a couple more days before I take them off. It will be important to take the blankets off once the weather warms up because you want the bees to be able to get out and be able to have that air circulation in there and not trap in a lot of moisture. So that's the key thing with bees. It's also a critical time of year. The bees have not been adequately refed for the winter. So if we were to go straight to winter at this point, the bees would not survive. I need to do some heavy feeding, which I just got new feeders for each of the hives, and I'm prepared to feed them, but it's too cold to do anything about it right now. We're kind of stuck. We have to wait until the weather warms up to 60 degrees. So we're definitely in a holding pattern for a few days on the bees, but I want to see them get fed and get those full of honey again before the winter hits, and that can be in October. So we just have a few weeks to go before they're safe and before they're secure enough to make it through the winter time. So folks, that is the update from the big winter storm from 2020, the Colorado September storm that almost made records, and how it sort of impacted us here at the homestead. And just fortunate overall that it was actually the storm that we always wanted. I guess I could say that just because we needed the moisture, we needed to put out the wildfires. We actually needed a reminder for ourselves to be able to prepare for winter. We need to wrap up some projects and get some things ready for the winter time, which is just around the corner, probably about a month away. So, we were able to kind of secure the garden, secure the bees, and we're happy about that. And we're just really glad overall that the storm turned out the way it did. No major winds, no giant snow accumulations, no loss of power. So overall, it was not a bad storm. Just something really exciting to see in the news and to kind of experience. And we'll be looking forward to those warmer temperatures next week. So if you're finding us for the first time, feel free to subscribe and follow our story as we sort of navigate the world of Colorado mountain living up here, over 9,000 feet in elevation, figuring out sustainable living, growing bees, and home building all ourselves. And take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.